Hey everybody, it's been a while since I've posted, especially a workout. So I'm going to start posting daily my workouts, just like my buddy Johan does. It's time for me to get my ass back into the best shape I can be. Um, had some some uh, some issues. Actually was in the hospital for a couple of days, and then uh, nothing nothing major with me health wise. I'm okay there, but then workout has suffered for the last couple of weeks, and it's time for me to get my physique back to what it can be. And my body issues that I'd been working on for so long have gotten to the point where now I'm able to train and they're coming out faster. So that's a good thing. Um, Starting today's workout, my split right now is I do legs and back together because the Zercher squats you use a lot of back, and then hamstrings. Rather than doing deadlifts on back day, I just do more of an RDL. I break the knee a little bit, so it's not 100% an RDL like stiff leg deadlift, but I make sure that the hamstrings are very activated, and that way I'm killing two birds with one stone there. And as the weeks progress and I get in better shape, I'm going to up my Humanofort from 4 a day to 6 a day, and then I'm going to start training everything twice a day on those days. So whenever I feel my body's ready, and I'm to that extent. So right now it's just once a day, but eventually I'll be getting up and doing a workout at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then doing another one at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, just make sure I get, like, even if I don't sleep, just lay down for 45 minutes and meditate and get enough protein in before I do my next workout, and then hit the muscles one more time, and then give them a couple days of rest. So right now my split is back and legs. Then um, I'm doing a shoulder day, which right away I'm going to do shoulders twice a day because it's such a short day, and I'm doing calves on that day. So shoulders and calves twice a day starting out, and then chest and arms. And then if I feel I need a break, I'll take a day off. Um, Otherwise, I'll just train a little bit of whatever I feel needs training, and at the very least, go for a long walk. Okay, so that's my split right now, and I'm about to film my my Zercher squats. And first off, the Zercher squats, I'm going to I'm using the black Paraforce band, and since I'm just starting out, that's as heavy as I'm going to go today. I'm going to start out with a set of 10, then a set of 15, then a set to failure, and then I got a split squat belt again, or a squat belt, and I'm going to use it for regular squats like you've seen Johan do. I'm going to use this rack I have set up in my office. Um, I hardly use it, but it's handy for when I'm teaching people some Delsic training principles and then doing some eccentric loading of my own. So I'm going to walk you through my whole workout. So right now, and to show you guys, I have hydrolyzed whey. I know I talk a lot about whey, for the most part is garbage, but if you get a hydrolyzed whey, it's pre-broken down, pre-digested, and if you put a little scoop of like raw yogurt in it, mix it up and let it sit, some of the bacteria's in there. As long as it's hydrolyzed, it's all right. But even then, if you were to just slam 50 grams of hydrolyzed whey, your body on an empty stomach would suck it up so fast that you would end up burning the majority off as heat. Okay? If it's just whey isolate or whey concentrate, the whey particles, a lot of them are small enough to go through the intestine, but they're not broken down enough for our body to take it up into the muscle. So they circulate and cause inflammation, eventually turns to ammonia, and you piss it out. So what I'm going to do, that's what I do with whey. I take the hydrolyzed whey, throw a couple whole eggs in there, a little scoop of raw, like Greek yogurt, mix it up, and just slowly sip it. And then I have these packets of raw honey. There's 12 grams of carbs each. I have 2 of these packets, one before I work out and one between my legs and back training. And then after my workout, I wait till I get really hungry. And when I'm extremely hungry, like really hungry, then I'll eat a large amount of food. And that's going to be probably the bulk of my food for the day. Otherwise, I drink raw eggs through the day and just have like half an apple here or whatever. And as things go along, my appetite will increase. So I don't make this too long. I'm going to do my first set of Zercher squats here with the Paraforce band. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to start out with just 12 reps. This is basically a warm-up set. I'm going to do 12, then 15 or so, then 1 to failure. So here we go. First of all, band can't be doubled up. If you doubled them up for Zerchers, that'd be a hell of a squat. Anybody can double up the Paraforce band and do Zercher squats. You got to do a video on that for me, guys, because that would be really impressive. But so with the Zercher squat, when I get into it, first of all, make sure the band, I pull on it, make sure everything's level and good. And when I first get into it, I put my arm in the middle so it doesn't pivot from one side to the other. Then I put my other arm and trap it and then move the other one out. Now here, I get it up under the bicep. It's more on my bicep than anything, and I hug it. And then I keep it into my chest. It has to stay into the chest and shoulders back, and you go straight up like this. And you can see that bar, and then as I come down, that bar stays sucked into my chest. I get full depth and come up. So there's 3. 12. And then the last one, always take good advantage of that negative. Don't just drop it. Come down nicely and then set it down. And she's ready for the next set. So my legs are good and warm there. I'm going to take 2 minutes. As we know from a meta-analysis, 2 minutes of consecutive sets of the same exercise is the best idea. I take 4 to 5 minutes between exercises, but when I'm doing the same movement, 2 minutes. Okay, hasn't been quite 2 minutes, but I got to get back into position, and between sets, I take little sips. This is a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee mug. I just fill with a little water, but just little sips. I don't want a bunch of water in my guts, but I don't want to be thirsty either. But since I got enough energy, now I'm going to do my second set of Zerchers here. This one we're going to 15. Same thing. Make sure that's good and everything's good there. My footing, that's perfect. And I squat all the way down, get that arm in the center, this arm out. Now everything's good. And you can see I pull it up onto the bicep a little bit, squeeze it, and pull it right into my rib cage. And then stand up. Right there. And one advantage to bands is in the concentric phase, it gets harder, which we don't have with weights. With weights, the advantage is the eccentric phase. So I put more effort into the negative with weight. And you really want to put more emphasis with a band, try going slow in the concentric phase. That'll teach you something. I think that's 5. I think. 7, 8, 9. Now here's 15, so I'm going to put a lot of emphasis into it and come up real slow. Oh yeah. All the way up. And then slow it down. There we go. Good set. Make the muscles work the whole time there. All right, I'll see you in a couple minutes. All right. So this one's going to go to failure. I'm at about 1:45. That way I know when I get in there and get going, it's right around 2 minutes. No idea how many reps I'm going to do. Haven't really done this in a couple of weeks, to be honest with everybody. A little disheartened with myself, but it's never too late to pick it back up again. All right. Here we go. I have to at least get 20. Halfway. Five more. 1, 2, 3, 4. See ya with the belt squat. Are you recording? Okay. So the squat with the belt, I love John for coming up with this. This is like doing a squat and a leg extension combined. This is one of the greatest squats I've ever felt. and I'm using 34-inch bands. It's kind of a bitch to get in. You can see I'm tight. It's tight even fully squatted down. So by the time I'm even in the beginning of the squat, there's shitloads of tension already on the muscle. And the first rep is always the hardest. And as you saw, I went to failure with the Zercher squats, so my legs are already tired. But this is a 34-inch band. So the first rep, I got to really give her just to get up. And the bar I have here is just for stabilizing purposes. I come down. Ooh! And I kind of have to explode because it gets harder. You got your body weight, but then by the top, when you get there, that bar in the back of the legs feels like you're almost doing a leg extension at the same time as you're squatting. Call that one good. Okay. I've already done a couple reps. The recording took a little while to get started here. Yep. Yep. You can see I'm not using my arms. Yep. I'm just kind of touching this to stabilize myself. Yeah. 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 Oh. Help! Oh, God. I'm going to try one more time. One more time. All right, I'm spent. Okay, so Zercher squats, then the belt squats. So you can see I use the heel wedges with the belt squat, and even with the shorter band, those are 3 1/4 inch heels. You don't have to film that, but they're 3 1/4 inch heels. So it's giving you that much more height, but that angle, I don't have to worry about dorsiflexion, and my back is completely taken out of it. It's 100% in the quads, because when the toes are pointed down like that, as I come up, it's like doing a leg extension with the toes pointed almost, but you're using your body weight plus that doubled band. And you can try to pull on the bar all you want. The tension is between you and the plate. If you were to pull on the bar, you're just going to pull the plate off the ground. There's literally no way to help yourself by pulling on something, because the ground isn't fixed. You know what I mean? So if I was to pull up, I literally would just be pulling the plate off the ground, but my legs would still have to push that rubber band out. And that's why I know, or that's why, for example, astronauts now to keep muscle use bands in space because gravity is nothing. Now the only thing left to do, I do Zercher squats for multiple reasons. Zercher squats are superior when it comes to working your legs and then the whole rear muscle chain and your external rotation and everything. And I had a lot of issues in that area. So I'm strengthening and fixing all that stuff together. There's a lot of advantages to doing the Zercher squat. But then when I tested the belt squat with Johan, the way I felt it in the quads was unbelievable. And I knew I had to do that. So I begged John to get one. And thank God for John for coming up with the squat belt, because the squat belt is by far something that I think everybody should use. It is unbelievable. Now, I still like to do single leg movements. And as I've said before, the only disadvantage, luckily with body weight stuff like the squat, we have our body weight. But the negatives with a band, the tension is decreasing. In the concentric phase, bands outperform weights hands down. So if you're doing something with your body weight and a band, and by yourself, the only way you can make it at all better is if you had somebody to load weight and take it away at certain times. But when you're using just your body weight, when you're by yourself, using your body weight with the band is far superior to weights. You got something in the eccentric phase, and then the concentric phase outperforms weights. With weights, as you come up, it gets easier. The weight stays the same, but because of physics, the muscle has less load on it. But that band, the tension grows to the point where you can't move it anymore. And then there's still some left in the eccentric portion of the muscle. That's where the only advantage weights were had was the eccentric part. And then with legs, our legs are built to work one at a time. If you do everything 2 legs at a time, you're going to favor a hip, and that's going to, when one of your hips gets thrown off and tight and strengthened, then the other side is weak and stuff starts to compensate up your spine. I'll get into it more with my hip video, but like, for example, if you favor your right hip all the time, you'll end up with left shoulder problems, unless you have a direct injury to the right arm. But there are so many power lifters out there and like gym rats, for example, that have a left shoulder that's all fucked up that they don't know what to do with. And every time I ask them, are you right-handed? Yes. It's because you overuse your right hip. Your spine's thrown off. The tissue is connected this way. Your hips and your shoulders connect in an X pattern to compensate for each other. And if the tissue's already tight on one side, when you go to do something, it's already pre-stretched and you screw up your shoulder. That's why guys that squat heavy weight with both legs and bench press, for example, end up with bad left shoulders. So I, for my single leg movement, do the single leg Bosu ball squat. It's also a movement that Dr. Jaquish told me, or taught me, and even on days that I don't train, I'm going to do 1 set of these. Tomorrow I'm going to take the day off from legs altogether other than calves. I'm going to do shoulders and calves. But the next day I'll do a set of single leg squats on the Bosu ball. And even on my rest day, I'll do a set of single leg Bosu ball squats, just because it's so good for causing you to use that side of your body completely. In order to stay balanced, all the muscles in that side have to be perfect, even your feet. I wear shoes that are like gloves. These are the glove type shoes. You see how you can twist and whatever, and then they even have like spots for your toes in them. That way I can use my feet normally. It's almost like wearing a sock with a rubber gripper on the bottom. And then concentrically, my legs are screwed. The only thing left of them, the left in them, is eccentric. So what I'm going to do is single leg Bosu ball squats. I don't know how many I'm going to get, but I'm going to do just a couple sets and focus on the negatives and then come up. I don't care if I only get 5 reps. I'm just going to fry them and get what's left in them out of them. If you talk to anybody in my heyday when I was bodybuilding, nobody wanted to train legs with me because nobody could keep up. They'll tell it used to be a thing. Everybody be like, can I train with you today, Mike? Yeah, what day is it? Doing legs. Nope, ain't doing it. Because most guys would end up throwing up. And then it would be like a club. You were in Mike's. I squatted while doing, I puked while doing legs with Mike. It used to be a thing, and I'm excited that my body's getting back to where it should be so I can start to do that again. Eventually, I'm going to have some fun with Johan, competing back and forth, doing some crazy stuff. But this movement right here will not only fix all your body issues, when you're balancing, it's been shown, our good Dr. Jaquish did a meta-analysis on this, and the growth hormone output is about 10-fold that of doing a regular like split squat. If you were to do just a Bulgarian split squat or do a single leg squat on the Bosu ball, you put out about 10 times more growth hormone doing this. And your body's calling for it, and those receptors are ready for it. And this movement not only is going to give you an incredible set of legs, it helps burn fat and keeps you healthy as hell because your heart rate goes through the roof. You're using all the muscles in your body. So that's enough ranting. I start with my left leg, which ended up being my stronger leg because my right leg was so screwed up I couldn't even train legs for a while, and I went upstairs with my left leg only. So I do as many as I can with the left leg, then I force myself to get the same amount with the right leg, even if I have to step off for a second and get back on and do it. So I find where I can balance, and then I slowly go down, and I'm paying attention to that eccentric part. Pause, come up, catch my balance, force that negative, come up. I'm using my feet and my ankles like crazy, my hips, pause, come up. I used to have incredibly flat feet. This movement actually has corrected my caved in ankles and flat feet about 60%. And with time, it will probably get better now that I'm doing them again. But I actually was supposed to get a surgery when I was 18 because I could have gotten disability. My ankles were so bad. And just by doing this movement, because your hips control everything, your flat feet are from weak internally rotated hips and then not using the muscles in the feet correctly and the ankle. But in order to do this movement, you have to use those muscles in order to stabilize yourself. Most people, when they first start doing this movement, they'll feel like their feet are burning. Never do this in supportive shoes. Always do it either barefoot or with like glove shoes or socks with the rubber grippers on the bottom, something like that. It'll force you to use your ankles and feet the way you're supposed to, and it'll correct those issues. And it'll correct the misalignment in your spine because of people's hips, they end up getting a crooked spine. Oh, man, my legs are fried. All right, go ahead and pause that. So I'm just going to do one more set of the single leg Bosu ball squats. Like it's, guys, if I was to just do one set without doing everything else first, I'd get maybe close to 20 reps, but I'm getting what I can out of it. And this movement is something that I highly recommend to anybody, and I don't care who it is. If you're just a soccer mom or if you're an advanced athlete, this movement is no joke. And you're going to see in the next few months, eventually I'm going to start doing it with the X3. I'll put a band under my foot and have a bar in the Zercher style and use the X3 with it as well as I get stronger. Because this workout is the very beginning. All you're going to see from here on out is just I'm going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. But even mixed martial arts, when you kick, for example, you use that left hip. You plant the left hip and you use that left hip in order to whip the other leg, right? Well, imagine if you strengthened yourself doing single leg Bosu ball squats, how hard you could kick if you actually strengthen yourself doing these and practice the kicking. You would end up having one of the best kicks in the entire world. I know that hands down that would be so. This is something that everybody that teaches mixed martial arts, for example, should have their students doing. For sure. So hopefully I can at least get 5 reps here. That burns. Oh, almost 8. When I'm recording stuff and explaining, it does screw up my workout. So most of my workouts from here on out, now that I'm explaining this, I'm just going to go through them and not talk quite as much. So I'm not robbing myself of the workout. And I won't film every single one. Some of them I'm just going to get through them, but I'll film one a week because I'm doing all of this twice a week right now. And eventually, when I start doing them morning and night, I'll be doing them 4 times a week. When I up my Humanofort to 6 a day, and then up my protein and a little bit of rest midday, I'll start doing legs and back like morning and night, and then the next day shoulders and calves morning and night, which I'm starting right away as we explained, and then chest and arms morning and night eventually. I'm guessing it's probably going to be in about 6 weeks that I start doing that, maybe 8. I got to get all this stuff maximized before I start doing that. I got to have everything down and my strength going up and almost have plateaued. And that's going to be the probably 8 to 12 week mark. So let's guess minimally 8 weeks I'll be doing that. And once I start doing that, then you guys are going to be blown away about the amount of growth and the amount of protein that I'm going to have to start consuming. When you're doubling up your workouts like that, the amount of protein that you need in order to continue doing that it's unbelievable. But I've had guys actually put on 40 pounds of muscle in a year training like that. And there was there was a real asshole in one of the groups that tried to devalue what I did with the guy. And I had helped a guy put on about 40 pounds of muscle in a year. Yes, he was starting from ground zero, but all we did was TRT, and he worked his ass off and ate perfectly and did everything I said and trained everything twice a day. And we put on 40 pounds of muscle, and he's a pure ectomorph. So it is possible. And the twice a day thing, I have to hand it to Emmerich. A lot of guys don't think it's possible, but we know that that's when they worked for Balco Labs, that's what they had Barry Bonds doing. Emmerich even did it way back in the day in Romania. The weightlifting coaches would have guys do their training in the morning. Then they would give them a food card. They'd go to the store and get this food, and they would eat all this food and take a nap and then come back later that day and do the same workout again. Instead of doing 8, let's say you're doing 8 sets for a muscle, instead of doing all 8 sets at once, after the first 4 sets, if you're going to like failure, the rest of them kind of start to become what they call like junk volume. If you split it up, now you go feed yourself and rest. A muscle can recover in as little as 6 hours and work again. So if you ate enough and rested enough and didn't overtrain your first time, you come back in and do 4 more really good sets and send that protein synthesis through the roof. So now instead of doing 4 really good sets and then 4 so-so sets, or like 3 so-so sets and a junk set, you're doing 4 really good sets, feeding yourself, doing 4 really good sets, and then that everything's taken off. The hormonal output has doubled. Everything's doubled. And then for days, you're growing. And then after about 3 days, that's when stuff's going to start to atrophy and you hit it again. There's science behind all this stuff, guys. And all people need to do is listen instead of just trying to blame it all on fucking performance-enhancing drugs. Even the guys that are at the top of the field in performance-enhancing drugs are training the hardest and have the best genetics and everything else. People give drugs way too much credit. And they don't give Humanofort enough credit. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, damn it, this weak leg. 6. You see, I'm really forcing the negatives. Oh. Oh. So that's that. All I got left is hamstrings. But I'm going to do some back. Starting back, and I'll finish back up with the deadlifts for my hamstrings. Halfway through, I have 12 grams of honey, 12 grams of sugars from honey, and just a swig of hydrolyzed protein. Because I burned up a lot of glycogen and I need the amino acids. But as we've seen in studies, we don't need as many carbs as people used to think. People used to eat hundreds of grams of carbs, and literally if you, through your workout, just have 20, 30 carbs, you're good. So now I'll explain this here. Normally I do a pull-up supinated grip like this, right? And then I'll have a band on my knees to assist up and down, make it variable resistance. But I have this small Smith machine and it has a pull-down attachment. And I put 25-pound plates on it. And those bands, they're Sirius Steel makes 20-inch bands. And you can see how they're perfectly on there. They already, just sitting there, they already have tension. So by the time I get on my knees and pretend like I'm in a pull-up position and try to pull to here, right? And use those lats as much as I can. A little bit of bicep gets in there, but I try to focus on the lats. And because I have this, I use it. If I didn't have this, I would do the supinated grip pull-up like this and hang a band and just put my knees in it, okay? Or I would put one foot in it and come down until my foot barely touched the ground and then go back up and come up like this. But since I have this available to me, I just use it. So take my word, like most people in my group are at an advanced stage where they've been using the X3 for years, and you can step it up a notch, especially if you're somebody that's really into the bodybuilding scene. There's nothing wrong with doing some pull-ups and some push-ups with gymnast rings and single leg Bosu ball squats and things like that. They make all kinds of pull-up bars. I actually had one. I have one that you can put this in any doorway. You twist it and it telescopes out and wedges itself in a doorway. When I travel, I take this with me. The thing fits under the seat of your car. I mean, it's not a big deal. The only thing really missing with the X3 is like a pull-up. And for the average person starting out, you don't even need to worry about that. And then I say to people, when you first start out doing pull-ups, you might not be able to, you use a band to help you. And I've done videos, you can refer back to my YouTube channel on pull-ups. And if anybody needs any advice on pull-ups or something like that, I'm available for consulting. And as you can see, I even put it in Johan's. Hopefully we're still coming out with the documentary. I haven't talked to his wife at all and haven't heard anything of it, but did a really advanced style pull-up with him using the squat belt, so I had levers to pull down on him. But enough of that. My back's already warmed up from the Zercher squats. And so when I get to the top of this, my knees are almost coming off the ground. So by the time I get to here, I'm damn near pulling my entire body weight. When I start out, there's 50 pounds and probably 7-8 pounds of tension per band. By the time I get to the top, I'm pretty much using about my entire body weight. And because there's that little bit of weight in there, I really take advantage of those negatives. And try to pull down and get as far into it as I can. And I'm simulating a band-assisted chin-up. Okay. All right, I did that set. Now I'm going to do a rest pause set to failure and then move on to my last two or my last three movements. I just added 5 pounds per side because I already used that load, so I might as well try to add a little more. I'm going to order some more 20-inch bands so I can just add more band tension instead of just continually adding weight. That way I can add back and forth. I can add like 10 pounds, and then the next time I add tension, I'll add a small band per side. And then after a while, back and forth. But I'm going to take 15 deep breaths in between each set till I can't get 5. I'm going to do one more. Call that good. Underhanded row, 34-inch band. That way you have enough tension from the very start. I have tension here. So when I get to here, there's plenty of tension, okay? I'm going to get to here. Now there's all kinds of tension. I'm going to release. Normally with rest pause training is really good for myofibril hypertrophy, not so good for sarcoplasmic. That's where the higher volume training comes in. But because I'm doing multiple movements, I'm getting plenty of volume. And my back actually has shifted almost completely to where it should be. So now there's some weakness there. And I had to drop back down to the 34-inch white band. I was using the gray band. But since everything shifted again, the muscle doesn't have the coordination, and you have to go back down. But within a couple of weeks, I'll be back up to that gray band. And within 8 weeks, I'll be carrying 10 to 12 more pounds of muscle. And I'm excited for that to come. And I'm excited for everybody to be on that journey with me. And hopefully I'm giving some people some gumption to change their lives and do something about it. That's what my goal is with my clients. I have clients that it's changing their entire life. And that's been what replaced bodybuilding for me, is now helping people achieve their goals. And I feel like I'm winning with them. But at the same time, I need to, for myself, I need to get myself back. So, that was longer than 15 breaths. So cut me some slack there. One more go. And I'll get this ready for a static hold. Now a static hold, I take like 20 seconds. And normally I have that bar you can wedge in a doorway. I would use that. But because I have this bar at my disposal, I just use this. And this, the static hold, is going to tire out that eccentric portion. I'm going to get up into the fully contracted position and hold that as long as I can until I come completely down. Ugh. Ugh. Whew. There. Now the rowing is shot. I do a set of traps. And then I'll do my hamstrings and deadlift combination after that. You can go ahead and quit recording while I set this up. I'm ready. Well, this movement's a cross between a shrug and a row. You can see I'm externally rotated. I'm going to be using my rear delts, my traps, my rhomboids, everything involved in the external rotation and the traps and shrugging all in one. This movement right here fixes a shitload of body issues and builds the very upper back from like a little above the bottom of the shoulder blades up. It'll give you a really good looking back plus fix external rotation issues at the same time. And see, I get that as high up as I can, and I'm shrugging and rowing, and then I come down full length, bring it back up, and because with bands, the most tension's in the furthest most position, it's a good idea to hold on to that isometric hold at the top. Get it up there and hold the shit out of that. Come down, get yourself ready to do another one. It's necessary to use the long bar for this. Unless you're the most flexible human in the world. You can pause it. Gotta get those shoulders back as far as possible. Chest out. Oh, God. I have literally pre-exhausted the entire back, my traps, rear delts, everything. I've done quads, glutes, and a little bit of hamstring in my movements, obviously. Even rowing does some hamstring work. But this is going to top it all off. This uses the entire rear muscle chain from literally the back of my heels to the nape of my neck. I'm going to be using in this movement. I might only do 2 sets. I might do 3. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. But I'm starting with, I won't use anything longer than a 34-inch band. I was using Sirius Steel's 32-inch bands until John came out with the 34-inch bands. And then once John came out with the 34-inch bands, I switched to that because obviously I'm John's friend and I'm going to promote what John does. And the 34-inch bands are a really great product. As you can see, I've used the living shit out of these things. As you can see, that's putting some major tension on a band when you see peeling layers like that, because you max the band out to the point where it has no more stretch left and it's a dead stop. So when you max a band out to that point, we don't even know for sure how much tension it is because it's a dead stop. It might as well be 500 pounds because it doesn't even move. So this is a movement for the guys out there. I am not anti-weights, but I am 100% variable resistance. That's where the Delsic training principles come in. And I'm into eccentric loading. There is benefits to eccentric loading. But a couple of movements that I will say X3 only, do not ever do with weights unless you are a competitor, in which weights are a necessity for these things. One is the deadlift. I would never deadlift with weights ever again unless it was just extremely light and you could do like 30 reps. There's no reason to do a fucking deadlift with weights. With the X3, it's completely different. The X3 will realign your entire body. The X3 deadlift is about 60% of what started fixing my body. When I first started using bands, I was working out all the time and it was just great because I didn't hurt anymore. But once I started using the X3 and started doing X3 deadlifts, my pelvic bone was so tilted forward, and a lot of people aren't going to understand this, but my pelvic bone tilted so far forward that the quad muscles rolled over to the inside of my pelvic bone. The psoas muscles in here were pulled down so far that my spine pulled forward, and it looked like I had a gut like this because my spine was actually pulled forward. And then in order for the rib cage to stay over the pelvic bone, my upper back had rounded like this. And my neck had been compressed in an accident, and I couldn't even move my head, okay? Because I was so muscular, people didn't know what they were looking at. When you have that much muscle covering everything up, it isn't like seeing just a normal person come in. But if you ever see and I'm not picking on people, but Walmart's a great example. You go to Walmart, if you ever see a fat guy where their ankles are collapsed and their knees are like this, and they actually have a rounded upper back and their top of their hands are facing forward, and they're like this, that is basically what had happened to my body from years and years of really heavy construction work. And when anybody can tell you, when I used to go to the gym, I did barbell rows with 365 pounds. I did my sets of squats with 455. I would put 455 pounds on my back, but then from birth, my ankles were collapsed so that I was and when I would squat, everything got so tight, my hips actually got to the point where they're completely locked up. And because I'm right-handed, and when I was younger, I even was a logger, and imagine using a chainsaw all day long on this side of your body. Everything got so thrown off that I eventually had frozen shoulder on the left side and went to go over my head with something once and partially tore the long head of my tricep. I couldn't even stick my hand behind my back. Like I couldn't even do this. And I still have some tightness here to work on, but as you can see, I can at least put my hand behind my back. And I had no external rotation at all. If I was to go like this, all I could get was about to here. My shoulder was like almost completely frozen. And the only way to get it to move was to put hundreds of pounds on something and force it to stretch. And part of my strength, let's say I was benching 400 pounds, part of my strength was because everything was so tight that it was almost like wearing a bench shirt, because like from here down, the weight forced it, and there was so much, I was so rounded that it took a couple hundred pounds of tension off just from how tight I was. So part of what I was moving wasn't even strength. And that's the way a lot of guys that just lift weights, that's what happens to them. Bands do the complete opposite. When you're in the stretched position and strain, you eventually end up causing little tears and scar tissue, and you end up shortening the tendon. And where there's all that scar tissue built up, it's brittle. And eventually, something will rip. And you'll see all kinds of guys that have partial tears in their pecs, their bicep, the short head of the bicep will rip, the rear delt, their labrum, the supraspinatus tendon back here will rip. All kinds of problems. And I see guys training young guys all the time, rooting them on to just be bouncing this heavy weight off their chest. And I've seen 16-year-old boys that already have the beginning of having all this tight tissue in their trap above their shoulder blade, and their hips are already off, and people are rooting them on. By the time these guys are in their 30s, they're already tearing muscles and things are going to shit. And by the time they're in their 40s, they wish they weren't even alive. They hurt so bad. And they're on painkillers. You don't need to do that. We can lift weights with variable resistance and avoid all that bullshit and get stronger than we ever could before. That's when we're just using weight, using more and more weight, you're just end up damaging yourself. With bands, using more and more tension, at the part where there's the most tension, you're actually pulling the muscles into their seated position where they should be. And then when you're in the lengthened position, there's still tension on the muscle and on the tendon, but it's not so much that you're damaging anything. It creates an inflammation, strengthens the tendon, and softens it up. And eventually that old scar tissue will start to tear loose. And that's where you can methodically use the bands first, soften everything up, and then go in and do the same movement you did to damage yourself, like a bench press, for example. I use one of those slingshots, and once a week after I do my chest press and everything with the bands, I'll go in and just do really slow negatives with the Smith machine, just to rip and tear, and I can feel my shoulders and everything ripping the way they should be. Okay? And if we use variable resistance methodically, we don't ever have to do that. We won't ever have setbacks. And we can use intelligence and end up using more load than we ever thought humanly possible, and be able to lift more weight and more band tension than anybody thought possible, and not have these issues into life. We won't have to go through what I just went through for the last 3 years. It was the most uncomfortable, most defeating thing I had ever been through, was reversing 20 years worth of damage to the point, like my right side was so froze up, I had to climb stairs with my left leg. That's how crippled I was. I was literally crippled. And when I started using the Bosu ball and bands, at first it didn't hurt, but then once things started going where they should be, My hips stood up and my entire spine realigned. My neck came out. My shoulders started ripping back. And it was the most painful experience of my entire life. I was actually to the point, the pain and all the toxins released in my body, I was throwing up. I couldn't sleep. It hurt just to stand up. When I would stand up, it would take 3 seconds just to get to the top, just to go take a piss. I don't want people to have to go through that. So I want to teach guys how to build muscle and use as much tension as humanly possible. And no, I am not a weight snob. There's nothing wrong with weights, but there is something wrong with just using raw weight in large amounts and using more and more weight. It's just an ego thing, and it's actually, I'll say, it's fucking retarded. So, unless you're competing in bench press competitions for like sport, and even then, the strongest guys in the world are training with bands and weights. When they go in and do a max amount, that's for the competition only. They're not doing that every day. So that's enough of that rant. Let's do some back and hamstrings. Oh, this is going to be productive. I can feel it already. In the beginning of the deadlift, you want to start with the shoulders back. I'm using my lower traps, and squeezing those shoulder blades together and keeping, and my rear delts and my shoulders are back. Head is up. I'm looking straight forward. There's slight bend in the knee, and from there, I come up. I'm not leaning back. Don't ever do this. You pull the shoulder back, and the line and the spine is straight. And don't ever lean back like this. This is stupid. This will hurt you. Straight up and down, shoulders back. Keep the shoulders back. Go down. I think I've talked too much in this session. Ready? As you can see, I jumped up a band size. That's the large. The grand finale. I'm completely exhausted. But I'm going to see how many I can get with the 34-inch black. That's that.